Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, here where we talk about all things magical, metaphysical, healing, trauma, and everything in between. There's a lot that happens on the East Coast, a lot that happens on the West, and Katrina and I thought, why don't we have a conversation about these things on a public forum? Why don't we let everybody peek behind the kimono just to see what what it's like from the healer side of things, the trends we're seeing. And so we're here to do that with you again today. If
We
this
were
is your
doing it
first time
already,
joining us,
actually.
yeah,
We just
well,
let you listen now.
it was already happening.
Yeah,
So
it was.
welcome to the conversation. And Katrina, pre-show, we were talking about some things. And I think it's probably worth mentioning. We're working on our website. If you noticed, there was something off.
Yeah, we're
Um,
rebuilding.
but it's almost been a year. And so if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the community. If not, if you've been along with us for this whole time, thanks. You're like family and we appreciate you. So just so you know, in case this is your first time joining us, I am Dahlia Rose over here on the East Coast, holding down the fort at Crystal Cognizance. I'm in my healing space right now, a much needed thing this week, along with my crystal skull babies. There's more of them that you can't see because I'm obsessed. And over here on the East Coast, I operate as a healer, a support system, spiritual counselor, meditation teacher. We do a lot of stuff, along with tarot card readings and all kinds of things. And we just try to keep things less less traumatic for the DMV. and as weird as possible in the best ways. So, but I have a lovely co-host who will introduce herself now.
I am so excited to be here, Dahlia, and I'm so excited to have had a year ago. Right now, I was wondering if I was going to be able to work with you again, and I had missed you so much since
Oh,
T and Crohn's had died off. And I was so excited when you were open to doing this broadcast. I've had so much fun with it. I'm excited to see it continue, to see where it goes next. And I am here in my home in Shingle Springs, California. And behind me, you see my bed, which I'm attached to on a similarly passionate level as Dahlia and her skulls. I do love my sleep. I have taken some time off of work lately. I'm actually, as of, I guess, when was it? Around March or so, I think it was, maybe May. I went into a semi retirement. And so
mhm.
I now only work a few hours a day. And that's why I'm home on Thursdays, is because I have not yet gone to work. And I'm really just loving it. I'm just loving the downtime. In fact, I still have dirt under my fingernails because right before we went live, I was repotting plants, you
Oh,
know,
nice.
house plants and things that I just never had time to do before I can now do. And I'm just really fortunate to have a partner who is just so invested. And you know what? Whatever you want to do, I'll run the store. I think he just wanted time away from me, and that's fine because I'm having a great time. But my name's Katrina Rasbold. I'm an author. I am a blogger, although I haven't blogged in a really ridiculously long time. And I'm working on our latest novel, and it's number 6 in a series of 8. So we're getting there. I started writing these in, I believe, 2015, and
Nice.
it's just been such a journey. And so that's taken up my time. But I also do astrology charts. I do tarot and Lenormand readings. Actually, I got to tell you, Dahlia, lately, as I know you do a nice combo, but in my professional readings, I've just been laying into that Lenormand. I
Yeah.
just got this deck called Lenormand Epic Light, which is stuck in a container right now. And it's this nice sepia tone, really kind
Ooh.
of beautiful indie deck that I love. And that has just been my go to lately. I've just been leaning hard into that. And then I also do cleansings for people, but I've pulled back on that an awful lot. And Nelta, some of my apprentices, got really good at what they're doing. And so they're taking on a lot of my newer clients. And that gives me more time to do things like this and spend time with you. And I absolutely love it. So that's me. That's what I
Oh,
do. And oh, I should mention, I own Crossroads Metaphysical Store with my husband, Eric Rosvold. And that is our life right now, in addition to house hunting.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I have you to thank for the introduction to Lenormand. So I used to do completely tarot and like the occasional oracle cards. But what I liked about the tarot was how like you get everything. It's not just the good. You get like when that tower card hits your reading, it's like, okay, oh shit, let me
Mhm.
let me figure out what's about to get disrupted very suddenly, right? But when you were in a period, I guess, of learning, right? Because you were managing so many different things that it was like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to learn this thing with the Lenormand. I was like, what is that? Tell me more. And it's blossomed into this beautiful, very detailed, even more detailed experience with my readings where I'm combining the two. So I am so grateful. Um, and some shout outs. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Caressa. Hi,
Oh, speaking of
Colleen.
Carissa, if you're the one that ordered from me this week, I need some clarification from you. Please check your email. I had a Carissa who spells it the same way, but I don't remember the last name. If it was you, check your email. I need more information. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Colleen. If I didn't say that, I thought I did. Um, Welcome to the broadcast.
Yeah.
Um, so, we're both
Lenormand.
extremely
So,
happy to be here
what
with
I
the
wanted to throw
Lenormand.
in about Lenormand very quickly, I told
Hmm.
myself in lockdown, when we were locked down for 3 months, that's when
Hmm.
I finished the Uncrossing book for Llewellyn.
Yeah.
I otherwise would not have gotten that done. I would have probably reneged on my contract because there was just no time. And I did it. And when I was finished with it, I told myself I wanted to learn something new. I had just finished 6 months invested in writing this book about what I do every single day. And I thought, I
Oh.
want to know something new. And I had noticed Lenormand when I ran the shop at Denio's in
Hmm.
Roseville. It was just a little metaphysical store. And Lenormand had come across my path, and I didn't get it. It just didn't resonate with me, and I just kind of let it go. And so I think it was an Under the Roses deck, which is sort of Lenormand adjacent. And
Hmm.
I just didn't get it. It didn't do anything for me. And so my favorite Udemy, which is Udemy, udemy.com, my favorite instructor on there, Astrid the Witch, happened to have a class on Lenormand. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to try to learn. And I got a Bluebird deck, which is the very basic deck, like the Rider Waite of Lenormand. And I started learning it with Astrid, and I was just captivated. And so that's probably when you got swept in, because as soon as I'm enough neurodivergent that as soon as I get focused on something, I have to grab all my nearest and dearest by the hair and put their face in it and say, look at what I'm doing. Look at what I'm doing. Look at this. This is so cool. You've got to see this. So I think that's when I snagged you on it.
Well, it's a good thing I'm into alternative forms of love because the grab by the hair was perfect and it added so much to my experience. I mean, I absolutely love them. I too, so I had grabbed, I was actually looking for the deck now, because the first Lenormand deck that I'd come across, she had added like two or three more cards.
Is it the
And
Gilded? That's the
was it
first one I
gilded?
saw that had additional cards. The Gilded Romantic or something like that. It was super pretty deck.
It was a really pretty deck, and she added in things that were just more specific, but I can't seem to locate it anyway. Then when I saw you with the Bluebird, what I loved about it was the poetry. So I stuck with that, and then I actually ended up working with Kipper deck after that.
I've
So
done
now
Kipper. Nelta
we're up
loves
to.
Kipper. She's all about her Kipper.
Yes, I saw the Kipper deck on a YouTube channel, and so now I'm actually up to using three decks. I don't know where the madness will stop, but
Well, I'm going to help that, because look at this. This is called the Is that the right direction? The Intuit Oracle.
okay.
It's enough. I've been on these indie Lenormand decks lately, and I want you to look at this because you like poetry and words and such. Look at that. Can you see it?
Oh wow. Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
I love it.
And it's an expanded deck, so there's
And it looks like it's
actual.
a normal size cards
It's
too.
sort of almost bridge size,
Okay.
but it's expanded, so it has different different ones too. And it's
Nice. I
actually
love the
72
pictures.
cards, and it's really beautiful. And so, and it has this texture. It's not quite plastic, but it just has this almost plastic feel to it that makes them feel they shuffle easily, and they
Okay.
integrate with one another really easily. So that and that epic light, those are the same card. I drew the same, I cut and did the same card, which is what our program is actually about today, is the writer. But so yeah, those are
Great.
my go-tos right now. Everything is Intuit Oracle and Epic Light, and I don't even sell those in my shop. That's what a bad salesperson I am. Is that because they're indie decks, I can't give a good price on them in the shop, and so I just point people to them.
Well, you know what though? And like look, this isn't even the show, guys. We haven't even gotten into that. Um a really great place for unique decks, Kickstarter. Now,
Mhm.
you might not get them for a year, but oftentimes you're going to get something so unique, limited production, like the Alleyman's Tarot.
I have that.
Man,
Yep.
yep. And I was so mad that I didn't buy more of those decks because it's an incredible deck. I mean, 137 cards. I mean,
It's
it's nuts.
unbelievable. It's so beautiful, and it's so, oh my gosh, it's like if the Mad Tea Party created a tarot deck. And
Exactly.
the
That's a great
Intuit
description.
Oracle is also Kickstarter. I just did it. They, you saw how they have the words at the bottom. They're doing a tarot deck like that.
Oh,
And
nice.
so I contributed to that. I sponsored in on that. And Epic Light is actually Etsy. And I'm
Okay.
finding that a lot of the indies, once they've done their Kickstarter, go to Etsy for
Head
you to
over to
buy
Etsy.
more.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, but
awesome.
no, that's
So,
Kickstarter's fantastic. It's a
so if you
risk,
guys are
but
looking for unique stuff,
yeah.
Kickstarter.
And then, of course, Etsy knows what they're doing. So once you buy a couple of really cool Lenormand decks, as soon as you open Etsy, they're like, "Oh, look what we found that you're going to love." And so I just like hand them my bank account. Here you go.
Now, now here's an interesting thing. Sylvia's commenting on having the deck. I have to say this about Sylvia. So Sylvia walked into my shop, gosh, was it 2 or 3 years ago? With like a bag full of like 15 decks of cards. And was like, here, you know, these need new homes if you feel compelled to give them to people. And I was like, who are you, magical card fairy? Like there were so many.
Colleen Richards does that. She'll come in and she'll have this box of tarot cards and say, "I don't know if you can use these or not, but I felt like they needed a new home."
Yes, I absolutely love it. And I admire the attachment because me, I mean, I give things away, but not not stuff like that. And so, the freedom to just know and to understand like, hey, these are gonna benefit somebody else. I was so moved by that. Sylvia's amazing. And apparently so is Colleen, so very cool. Prerequisites for being a part of the show, you must be amazing. So
One of the things we do, and speaking of letting go of things, and it's really understated how powerful it is to let go of things, including the things
Mhm.
that you cherish, that you love.
Yes.
But in
Shh, it will never happen, babies. It will never happen.
Shh, do not listen. Do not listen. Mother loves you. One of the things that we used to do with Cuss, because I'm an accumulator and I like to go to thrift stores and find amazing magical finds. And so my house was like this witch museum. And you couldn't put your hand on the wall where there wasn't a green man or a grapevine pentacle or something, a painting, and everything had a story to it. But
Right.
once a year, at the ritual that we had the 1st of August, which is Lammas or Lunsa, it's the first of the harvest, we would put out the long white festival tables. And Eric and I would put items on them that we were releasing. And
Mm.
so we would have the full ritual where we welcome in the harvest, and we're all excited because Cusp is all about preparing for the harvest all year, planning what you want to harvest, and putting it out there. and going out into the fields and collecting your harvest, metaphorically. And so what we would do is we would tell the people that came to our ritual, these are your fields, go harvest what you need from the fields. And so that represented their first harvesting, was to go out and find something wonderful that called to them, that was supposed to be theirs. And releasing that sort of thing is absolutely so empowering. And Eric Wolf, who's often on here with us, he's the king releaser. He will go through everything he owns and purge like a motherfucker. I've never seen anybody who can so ruthlessly purge the way that he can.
Listen, Eric, yes, Eric is that. He reached out to me a couple weeks back, and he was like, "Hey, I've got some rocks," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm always here for the rock adoption process. Bring it on." And he sent me like a 25-pound bag of a 25-pound box of rocks. I have a few of them here, and these are like, I'm like, did you dig these up yourself? I mean, look at this huge, beautiful piece of apatite. And then he, obsidian.
Yep.
And fire agates. I mean, these they're absolutely stunning. And I was just like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, just,
that's Wolf.
They're yours. And I was like, I had no words. I had absolutely no words, just utter gratitude. So yes, a master purger, and I too am a collector.
And he actually said to me, we were talking about something. He goes, okay, well, I gotta go mail 40 pounds of rocks to Dahlia. I didn't even think anything about it. It's like, okay, have fun with that.
Yes. Now, on the topic of letting things go, that is kind of the direction that we're headed in.
We got the rider card, which is moving forward.
Yes.
Mercilessly. It's about you're on that horse. That horse is going. So you better have hold of the reins. I always see the rider card that I just pulled, that guy on the horse, as something like the Chariot. You better be holding on. You better be paying attention to where you're going, because boy, a strawberry moon in Sagittarius sounds so sweet, doesn't it?
It does.
Is that coming up on, I think, is it Tuesday?
It's the 14th. I know that. Is that Tuesday?
I think so.
So, full moons tend to be a time when people are like, oh, yeah, charge your crystals, do this, do that. But, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the full moon's light is to shed light on things that may not be balanced, working, whatever, but they are moving forward. And I think, and in the spirit of the rider, right, the horse is moving. And if the full moon is to shine light on things that are not working, this is not necessarily a time to shift or do things about that. You kind of want to wait till the new moon. But you need to become present and aware of it. And it's almost like the horse is moving us towards that. Like, hey, this is the direction that we're going. We're going full speed. Did you want to go in this direction? And you kind of get clarification with that around the time of the 14th, and remembering that you're going to get those energies 2 days before, the day of, and 2 days after. So that takes us right into the weekend. So, are there things that you need to free yourself from, like in the spirit of letting go? There could also be things weighing us down, maybe slowing the horse down. Maybe you want it to go forward faster, and it's just like, so there's a lot happening with this moon in Sagittarius.
There is. And one thing we got to look at is life is like those moving walkways in the airports. And if you think about the way that works, where it's like a conveyor belt, for those of you who have never been to an airport that has this, it's like a conveyor belt, and you can just stand there and hold with your bags at your feet, and you're going to get to where you're going. Or you can walk, which will take you just slightly faster. There's sometimes going to be people in your way. You may have to wait for them to move over or bark at them or whatever you want to do if you're trying to walk and they're standing still. You can actually turn around and walk the other way, but you're not going to get very far.
Nope.
You can stretch your body out and lie dormant on that thing and still get to where you're going, with or without your luggage. That's up to you. And that's really how life and fate work, is you are going to get to where you're going. Your question is, how beaten up are you going to be when you get there? And how quickly do you want to get there? And this full moon is really about fate and course correcting. And it's about, where are you in relation to what you're supposed to be doing right now? So don't be surprised if you have some real come to Jesus kind of awakenings and feelings and awarenesses and just like moments of clarity over the next week, I would say. And what are you going to do with that information? Are you just going to crawl back into your shell and not look at it and not do anything about it? Or are you going to demand a little more from yourself and purge and clean up what isn't serving you and start going down that walkway? Okay, I'm quite sure whoever's calling me wants to know about my auto warranty. So we're going to pick that.
Things to purge.
Yeah,
Those
purge
fucking
that.
calls.
But yeah, we need to be able to think about and really have clarity about where we're going, what we're doing, and do it on purpose. Because so often we are just stretched out on that conveyor belt going, okay, wherever it's going,
Right, take
just
me
take
life.
me there. We watch other people walk past us, dragging their kids and their luggage, bumping their wheeled luggage over our face. And we just lay there, okay, it goes where it goes. I can't see, but I'm just going to roll. No, stand your ass up and figure out what flight you're supposed to be on and get there.
Right. And I want to touch on the supposed to be phrase, right? Like that's something that I often get asked, what am I supposed to be doing in life right now?
Oh,
And it's such a challenging thing to answer, I'll say, because there is no real supposed to be in all of these things, right? Now, I think the clarity that I've been able to share with people is, rather than looking at this like, what are you supposed to be? What are you supposed to be doing? What does God want me to do, right? It's, how am I to operate within the situation that I've created, or how am I to operate in the situation that I want to head toward with change? Right? Like whenever I engage with that supposed to be space or supposed to be doing space, I always kind of feel back into that, because there is this weird, I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it is church, maybe it's upbringing, this weird understanding that we are supposed to walk down one set path, hit these markers. I mean, and it starts in childhood, right? Well, if your kid's not up and walking by 2, something's wrong. If they're not speaking by 5 and using full sentences, something's wrong. And that continues to like perpetuate trauma throughout the life when you haven't figured out what you want to be or what you want to do in your adult years. In high school, you weren't allowed to be a kid. You needed to figure out by sophomore year what career path you wanted to take, what college you wanted to go to by junior, senior year. And if you hadn't, you're a failure. That it doesn't, I'm noticing that it doesn't seem to stop. And then you have to hit these markers throughout life. And so when we approach a Sagittarian full moon, a super moon at that,
yeah.
when the light hits you, the question can maybe start out with, am I happy with my circumstances? Or am I just tolerating it? Am I letting these people just move me along on the people mover and wheel their bags over my face? Or if I'm not, what do I need? Like, what should I be doing to stand up? What should I be doing to stop walking backwards on this thing? As fun as it is to know, like, hey, I can see everything behind me when I walk backwards and I know exactly what I'm looking at, to be willing to turn around and be carried into the unknown. Like Katrina said, you can figure out what flight it is. Where's the plane going to take you kind of situation. But anyway, I feel like we can get stuck on that supposed to be or should be, what should we be doing kind of thing.
We sure can. And when you're talking about how, yeah, it's fun. Look at me. I'm walking backwards. I can see behind me. When is your ass more likely to fall?
Mm.
Is it when you're trying to walk backwards on a forward moving conveyor, or when you're going with, oh, there's Gregory Zarian, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world.
When
He
is
is
your
an
ass likely to
amazing
fall?
life coach. He is
That's right.
fantastic. Anyway, long time friend. Anyway, the thing with that idea that what is my life's purpose, and this always comes up when it's your birthday or the first of the year, tell me what my life's purpose is. And my thought is, I don't fucking know. Oh, your life's purpose, that implies you are here for some majestic reason that is a full contributor into the world. And I hate to be sad, but that is not always the case. You are here to have an experience that fulfills your soul on some level. And like you were saying, man, we like to have those boxes checked. We like to have those gold stars on our chart to show that we are meeting all the metrics and we're doing exactly what we should be doing. But your life's purpose is right now to be satisfied with the quality of your life and to be excited about where you're headed. And if you're not doing those two things, you are fucking it up.
At a
And
high rate.
that's really what it is. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges. It doesn't mean you're not going to have to unravel mysteries of the world to be happy or just to feel some level of contentment. But it means, where are you in that process? And how does what's happening right now contribute to or take away from the likelihood you are going to be in that place? And people do not want to hear that. They want to hear you are a healer. You are a teacher. Your job is to understand people. Your job is to work with herbs. Your job is to, put arms on dolls in an assembly line or whatever it might be. They want a task assigned to them. And your task is you and the people
Absolutely.
around you and how they're perceiving you. And if you're living around people that are constantly perceiving you in a way you don't want to be, you have to decide, am I misrepresenting myself? Am I allowing my emotions and my baser level responses to color who I am in a way I don't like? Or am I
Right.
surrounded with idiots that aren't on my level, don't speak my language, and don't know me? And
And do I
either
need to get away from them?
either way, you got some work to do.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And,
So,
you know, who's to say you're not going to be the healer that stands next to that person on the assembly line and stops them from falling into a deep state of depression that causes suicide? You don't know. And I think that we're having a greater conversation on this search for relevance, right? I want my life to mean something. I want it to be relevant. And this there is space, right? If you feel that within you, there's space for you to go after that without it being part of your purpose. Right? If you see an injustice in the world, go after it in a way that is meaningful for you. And if it's not something that you're well known for, it doesn't mean that you didn't accomplish your purpose. I mean, maybe your purpose was to talk to about 6 people on your path, and the rest is, how do I enjoy this experience? But, if you do find yourself in this state of, what's my purpose? I want something greater. I feel called to something greater. Don't wait for the psychic or the healer to tell you that you are capable of that simply because you can channel energy through your hands or through your heart. Take the step. Volunteer at the soup kitchen. Open the 501c3. Open the shop. Do the healing center. Do the hard work. I mean, if you would have said to me even 8 years ago that this is what I would be doing and where I was, I would laugh in your face and be like, excuse me, I'm comfortable being a veterinary receptionist and I will die here, like, and that would be that. But, speaking of sort of the reckoning that happens planetarily with full moons, with Saturn, because we're still going through Saturn things, when life is showing you that things are out of balance, or it keeps presenting you with things that need to change, which was the case for me. I was like, okay, you know what? Now I'm pregnant. I'm going to stay at work. And they were like, nope, bye bye to that. And I was like, wait a minute. I liked being veterinary receptionist. I had the most amazing staff and bosses around me. What the fuck? Universe, I liked it. I manifested this. Why are you taking it away? And instead of looking at how, while it was even a beautiful situation, it was not fulfilling who I was, not even touching on my purpose, because I believe I had purpose there. I was taking Reiki while I was working as a veterinary receptionist. I was Reikiing the pets when I felt like they needed it. I was filling exam rooms with Reiki when somebody had to euthanize. I was doing exactly what I'm doing now and supporting people. I mean, it was always, I used to get in trouble for talking to people too much because it's what I did. It was part of who I was, but there was more to be said and more to be had and more to learn that I could not get as a receptionist. And so that's what happened. It wasn't that it was like this terrible situation that I had to run from. There were uncomfortable things, but predominantly it was the best job I had until I started working for me. And even now, I think I'm like, man, maybe I should go back.
No, I
So,
hear you. And the thing is, purpose changes.
right,
And what is your purpose at one time might not be your purpose later in your life or earlier in your life. And you have to flow with those variants that occur and not assign yourself labels that aren't fluid. You have to be
right,
able, I mean, just like the label of mother or father, that's not going to end. It doesn't even end if by tragedy you lose your kids. You're still their mother,
you're
even
still a
though they
mother.
passed.
Yep,
But your role is going to shift within that capacity. And it's the same thing as a healer. It's the same thing as a teacher. Whatever you're doing, that is going to take different forms throughout your life. And often the things that happen to us that we perceive as cataclysmic are happening for us in order
yes.
to move us in a way that we would not normally change. Another thing to think about is, we search for relevance. We want to be relevant in what we're doing to be relevant, but relevant is relative. What is relevant to me might not be relevant to somebody else. I mean, I can
Absolutely.
watch an opera singer and say, you do that really well, but damn, I do not care for opera. And so I'm not going to have the emotive response that somebody who adores opera is going to have. And so
Absolutely.
we can't apply a importance to what we do that's going to be across the board accepted by everybody. And also, we do have some basic standards you would think in society, such as, don't make sure that you're able to be independent and take care of yourself and not be a burden to other people. Things like that. Don't stab puppies in the head. We've got our basic
Please don't
standards
stab
that are
puppies in the
also
head.
kind of fluid, but at the same time, its importance is going to shift.
Absolutely.
And we're all
With
going to
at
do,
every
yeah.
stage of life.
Like right now, if I was at a place where my purpose in life was to babysit children, it wouldn't be the puppy that was getting stabbed in the head. Okay. I'll just say, that's not my place. It wouldn't bring joy to me. It's not what I want right now. But there was a time that would have been ideal for me.
Right.
So things are going to shift.
It's interesting what you talk about in terms of the dynamics of a role and putting yourself in that space. There can be repeat roles, like you said, and it evolves. And it brought to my mind being in a session with a woman who never had kids. I don't recall the reason why, but what I could see of her lifetimes was that she had had kids and there were circumstances that took them away. And so in this lifetime, rather than children, she fostered rabbits. And you want to talk about like, I mean, a rabbit probably has the mental, um, I don't know how to say it, but like the mental development of about a 2-year-old. Like they're very smart, but they're very emotional. And if that sounds weird to say, it's true. stress can kill them. So, she had all these little creatures around, and those were her children. And, you know, she never really stopped being a mother, but it took on a different role in this lifetime. And it gave her a different level of fulfillment in this lifetime.
Mhm.
And even then, if she had fostered everybody and gotten everybody home that she had fostered, she even had space to just come back to self if she wanted to. And so that level of flexibility to understand, like, okay, if I feel compelled towards this role, I feel like I need to make a difference. I feel like I need to be more nurturing. I need to, like, it's important, I think, to get to the core of what it is that we as an individual are asking. And that, I think, is what this Sagittarian moon is going to highlight, is what is at our core, and looking at the basics of it rather than trying to glob a whole lifestyle role title around it. If you felt like you came in this life to save lives, you don't have to be a paramedic to do that. You don't have to be a firefighter or a first responder or a cop or a surgeon or a doctor. You didn't get that doctor degree, and yeah, your parents were upset, but you know how many volunteer crisis lines could use additional call operators? Do you know how many kids out there just need somebody to talk to change their life in small ways? There's so much. And most of the things that I'm talking about take a few hours of your time a week for you to make a difference and for you to feel fulfilled. And it's okay to seek out that fulfillment in selfish ways because it supports the greater good, I
There's
think.
also the idea, and I just want to be really quick to clarify what I'm saying, and I think also what you're saying. There's the idea that we are forced to have some greater purpose to our lives.
Hmm.
And you really don't have to. You
No.
get to pick. This might be the life you decided to take off and just chill for a while. And lots of people think, well, I must have some higher purpose. I must be here to serve humanity in some kind, in some way, and I can't see that. And maybe you're just not. That's not a requirement for being alive.
And there is a really good book. I'm gonna step off camera and see if I can pull it off my shelf. But there's if anybody is worrying about what astrology has to say about that sort of thing, like what your purpose is. I think I brought this up on the show before, and it appears that I took the book home, maybe. But it's called Astrology for the Soul. And the guiding principle of this book is, what is your North Node and how does that impact your purpose in this life? And what it goes on to talk about is things you go to heal and resolve within relationships, within work. Like, for instance, of course, I know about me because I read it. My North Node is in Aries. And the book goes on to talk about how in previous lifetimes I did more to support others, and that was my drive. Well, with my North Node in Aries in this life, I'm supposed to focus on myself and be a little bit more selfish. It's incredibly difficult. So I'm like, well, this book must be spot on because I'm having trouble with this sort of self-focus that I'm being called to do. And then it goes on to talk about what I could focus on in terms of healing and relationships. Now, I'm bringing this book up and talking about a person's North Node because sometimes maybe folks don't have time to sit down and meditate, which I'm going to call bullshit on, but I'm going to give it to you for a few moments. Maybe you don't have time to sit down and meditate on what's going on in your world. This is a great starting point, and then hopefully you segue into meditation so that you can get how that plays out for you on a personal level. you know um and like for me, for instance, with the North Node in Aries, learning that my favorite word is actually no. Like, I no. I like no. I like how it feels in my mouth and how I get this little tingling sensation when I say no. Um, and yes, Heidi, this is similar to the zone of genius discussion, I think. that to add to what you're saying, this is the deeper discussion, because even with the zone of genius, like let's say you tap into your zone of genius, there is how do you apply yourself to that? If you are operating within your zone of genius, does that mean you have to operate that way all the time? What does course correction look like? And even if it is your zone of genius, how does it evolve? I think that's probably a little bit of the greater discussion, but yes, it's very much tied to that for sure.
I think that we get, and we've talked about this on the show many times about how humans will not make a change unless there's pain. And we get very settled into who we are and what we're doing. And when it comes time that we have to move forward and do something different, that, which is what, again, this Sagittarian moon is going to be revealing to us, we need to be able to meditate or just sit and hold space with where we are and what we're doing. We just lost Dahlia.
Did we?
You just went black. There, hey, you're back.
Okay, well, that's something.
It was a black screen. Anyway, we need to, and you know, sometimes people are intimidated by the word meditate. They're like, I can't meditate, I can't do it. So they just shut it down. Don't go at it with the idea of meditate. Go at it as holding space for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just sit with yourself and think about where you are, what you're doing, and what that looks like. And when we're working within our zone of genius, where we're doing what we love and we love doing it and we're good at it, then we don't ever want to leave it. And it could be that there's another room in that apartment. There's another place we need to go explore. And for instance, I love being a writer. I love everything about being a writer. It fills me. It makes me happy. And I always thought since I was a child, I would be a writer. And so I've done that and I still do that and I enjoy it. I never envisioned myself as a healer. And
interesting.
So being a healer is my zone of excellence. I don't love doing it. I'm good at doing it. I don't mind doing it, but it's not my passion. And so I can learn a new thing that becomes something I do for a while that builds on that zone of genius and makes it different in some way.
Right, like not reading, but writing the healing books that you have.
Right.
So that's, yeah, absolutely. Just real quick to touch on Colleen's question. Do you have to have a full understanding of astrology for that astrology for the soul book? No, it's written in very plain language. You know, she might reference, you know, your North Node transiting this, but you're going to get a very clear definition afterward. And in order to find your North Node, you can reach out to Katrina with your information, or there's like several free resources online too, like astro.com or cafeastrology.com. Those are all available because it's just a quick bit of information. So, but yes, you know, you never know how your zone of genius is going to expand. Your zone of excellence is going to complement your purpose and all of these things. And again, with the lunar energies that are coming up on Tuesday, it's a great time to take the time. If you would take the time for somebody else, you should be able to do it for yourself. If you aren't, maybe that's your work. Maybe that is to say like, hey, you know, what's being highlighted this full moon is that I never set aside time for myself. I mean, I can recall pre-2020, we were doing, I want to say close to, and I'm not exaggerating this, close to 16 to 20 classes a month. And in those years of operation here at Crystal Cognizance, I was doing personal development in large chunks, but the everyday stuff was put to the side. I was leading full moon meditations and then trying to squeeze my full moon ritual in afterward or just before. And it was terrible. It was, you know, and I didn't know it was terrible until 2020 when I couldn't have my big groups anymore. because we were shut down for 3 months. And that's when I really got to see, like, wow, I minimized my practices for other people. Now, I can also say it was out of love, and it was probably appropriate for the time, because my goal was support of others and holding that space for others. But I love so much the contrast of now knowing, that if we need to not have events or rituals for a while, I'm a better person for when I come back to support others. And I'm sort of extending that to our community here. You know, if that Sagittarian moon highlights that for you, that you need to dedicate more time to yourself, don't be afraid to take it. Like, life will still move forward. The rider is still fucking riding,
The belt
and
is
it's gonna
still
ride past
moving.
us.
It is,
Yeah.
with or without you.
So, you know,
And you really, we think that moving forward requires motion. And it
mm,
does not always require motion. It does not always require doing. Sometimes it requires not doing and just being still, holding space for yourself to see, just as a State of the Union or a status check, just to make sure that you are where you want to be, or at least headed there. Are you moving in the right direction? And one of the hallmarks of this particular supermoon that's specific is it's coming on the tail of last month's lunar eclipse. And
mm-hmm.
that brings an element of fate into this discussion. So we talk about how, what's my purpose in life? That implies fate. What is immutable? That implies fate. And really, my belief is that there are just a handful of points in our lives that we are destined to have happen, that everything else is choice, everything else kind of flows between, but that we have these immutable check boxes that we have to hit in this time around. And I know that that seems contradictory to what we've been saying, but really it's not. It's a matter of identifying when that's coming up and making sure we're staying open to where we're led. And an example of that is when we want something so badly. I have to have this house. I have to have this job. I have to stay in this relationship no matter what. And it
Mm-hmm.
still gets taken away from us, or we just don't get what we expected to get and wanted to get. And I think that's because it would have interfered with one of those immutable correspondences that had to happen. And we can, go back with dozens of examples of when that's happened in our lives, that we've been redirected someplace else. And the trick
Yep.
is to just be so open to that and to just welcome it with open arms, because it's going to be the best thing for us. It's going to take us to where we need to go inevitably. And what's fascinating is I will watch people who have a lifelong history, so much evidence that this is the case, and they're still terrified.
Yeah.
When you're my age and you've gotten to 60 and you see that everything you desperately wanted and didn't get ended up for the better, it seems like you would reach a place where you would say, okay, I trust it. And people just don't.
No. I recall you telling us a story several episodes back of how things kept getting taken away from you and Eric in terms of his jobs. And you'd get
Yeah.
comfortable, and then, next thing you know, it's gone too. And you guys got to this place of celebration where it was like, okay, and I think you said, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you would go out to dinner,
Hmm.
and it'd be like, okay,
We did.
we're celebrating the incoming newness despite what
Yeah.
had just occurred. And I think that's such a great and innovative way to deal with the disappointments, right? To actually say thank you, and to actually get into, like, okay, man, if this is the worst of it, that means that the equal and opposite
Yeah.
reaction is greater.
I'm excited for what comes next. And as
Yeah.
a Virgo, it was really hard for me to talk myself out of the panic, because we have to have a plan. We like predictability. We had at that time 4, 5, 6 kids at home. And
Jeez.
yeah, and he was our only income. And so we would get into this pattern of terror every time he would get laid off. And it wasn't that he just kept screwing up jobs. He was a telecom engineer and the bottom was falling out of the .com industry. And so a lot of these telecom companies, even like MCI WorldCom, big companies, were just crumbling and declaring bankruptcy. Last one hired is the first one to go. And so he would absolutely voir dire the recruiter and say, look, this is the fourth job I've started in a year that has died. What is the viability of this company? I can't keep doing this. And oh
Right.
no, this company's been around for 30 years. It's so well established. There's no problem. And then 2 or 3 months
Boom.
later, we're having the same conversation. And so it came to he and I looking at each other and saying, look, this isn't working. We cannot stay ratcheted up all the time. And it was as soon as we would get out of debt from robbing Peter to pay Paul while he was off work, that he would, we would just be caught up and then he would lose his job again. So it was this ongoing cycle of poverty and fear and just panic. And here we are again. And what are we supposed to be learning from this? And we just said, we can't do this anymore. This is madness. We're getting off the merry-go-round. And so we just shifted perspective and got
Yeah.
to the place that, we would take our last money in our account, whatever that was, $50, $150, whatever we had, and we blew it in faith. And we would just go out to dinner and say, cheers, what comes next? This is going to be great.
You know what's interesting? It's almost like you created a flashpoint of pain in order for the universe to respond, or to release your resistance to the
Well, and
next
the
thing.
universe was confused at first. They're like, what just happened? This isn't what's supposed to go on. But
Why
then
aren't you suffering?
it adapted and said, sure, here you go. And because we weren't fighting and struggling, it's like drowning, where if you freak out and start to panic, you're going to drown faster. And we would just say, okay, what comes next? What's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? What do we do next? What do we not do next? In it to win it. Let's do this.
And I think that, for our audience members, it doesn't have to be that you blow your last $50, but
I don't
I
recommend it.
think I wonder, what you all have, that it's kind of like, okay, you know what? I have been red knuckling this thing for the past several weeks, months, years, and now it's time for me to just let go and see what happens. This is the Fool card, right? Like, the
Yeah.
go ahead and walk off that ledge, because there's nothing you can go back towards. The dog might be hanging on to you. You've got your little knapsack, and the next thing is to take a step forward. And for some folks, that might be stepping off the ledge into a relationship. It might be stepping out of one. It might be leaving the job. It might be, whatever it is. There is always, I consistently see in people this point where they go, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And, I'm done with this. And that is always the turning point into opening up the energies and releasing it.
And it's
You
that
know,
critical analysis you're talking about that this
yeah.
moon is demanding. And when I look at the people in our audience, I look at Gregory Zarian, I look at Colleen Richards, I look at Alejandra, these people hit critical points where they just said, that's it. I'm
Hmm.
changing what I do. And Heidi Pamela just posted a thing where, despite all odds, she was saying, I'm not letting you define who I am. You don't
Beautiful.
get to choose my limitations. And so I see all these courageous people that are in our audience today. And I'm just so honored to see, it's not, I didn't do a special thing. In fact, Eric and I did a dumb thing by saying, we're just going to, we have all these kids, we're just going to blow all our money. Let's do this. But everybody will find their expression of just letting go of the reins. And it's very common in Christianity to say, just leave it at the foot of the cross,
Yeah.
let go and let God. Jesus, take the wheel, just let go.
Jesus, you're driving kind of crazy. Hold on, give me the
Jesus,
wheel
not
back.
the back wheel. Come on. But, we all have to have those times when we just release and become startlingly aware of our circumstances, but also empowered in a way that we know what we can do about it. We don't just look at where things are, we look at where are we driving them. And sometimes we're going to look at where things are and say, I really like how things are right now. This would make it more exciting. This would make it even better. And that's what allows you to make change before the pain comes. Because, like I said, most humans are going to move and make change when things get painful enough to motivate them. But if you constantly hold space for yourself and your life, and you say, every Thursday at 4 o'clock, I am going to take time for me, and I'm going to write, I'm going to journal, I'm going to think, I'm going to blog, I'm going to look at where my life is and what I love about it and what is challenging, and I'm going to stay on top of it. You don't have to get to the point that it's painful. You can be aware enough that you make changes before you start getting beaten up into making those changes.
And I think to draw back on the purpose piece, to add to those things that you're going over, if you're going to do that every Thursday, or if you're a fire sign, pick a day of the week, but vary it on occasion, right? Air signs too. There's space to say, to look yourself in the mirror and say, you don't know my limitations, and you're not going to hold me back in the way that Heidi did for maybe another person. And then, you know, this piece of, if you're asking about your purpose, or this moon in Sagittarius highlights something for you that doesn't feel like it's part of your purpose, this assessment that we're talking about right now is the way out. It's not, going and saying, okay, well, I need to go after my purpose now. You might be in it, but you just may be facing the wrong way on the moving floor, that the example we brought up earlier. So, yes, do all the introspective things, and you might actually find a way out. That's your ladder. That's the way to handle this Tuesday upcoming moon is, what is it that's not working? What unnecessary things do you need to move out? And then what do you need to do to take action towards your purpose, towards your zone of genius? Does anything need to evolve? And then, see where life takes you.
And, one of the themes, we talk about the themes in our shops and such. One of the themes I'm getting from people right now are big life changes.
Mm.
It's June. People had babies just graduate from high school.
Yes.
And, we just had Memorial Day. And so people are thinking about those that have passed that were important to them. And there are just many, many life changes at hand for folks right now. And how you navigate that, the fearlessness that you engage that, is going to determine how that goes for you. And when you just allow yourself to just be dipped in shit and fear, you're going to smell shit and be afraid. The point of managing this is to be afraid, but say,
And do it
I'm going
anyway.
to keep going down that path, because if I sit down, I can't get to where I need to be. I'm
Jesus,
just going to be driven.
did you just describe what it's like to be an entrepreneur? Wait a
Oh,
minute.
wait.
Well, shit, I've smelled shit and fear, but I'm not
Yep,
closing
shit and
doors
fear.
yet.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
That's because when we're afraid, we shit ourselves. Whoops.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and all true.
And terror, you can be afraid and look at that and say,
Mm-hmm.
this is scary. That doesn't mean it has to paralyze you.
And it doesn't mean you're out of alignment if you're afraid. I don't know about you, Katrina, but I often find that when I'm afraid of something, that seems really positive is actually the thing I'm supposed to do.
Yes, yes, that's exactly true. And it's kind of like when you're on a battlefield. If you were a medieval knight on the battlefield, swinging a sword in the middle of a battle, are you going to say, "Oh, this is scary," and just pass out?
Or leave.
Like, all right,
I'm
I'm done
out.
with this. This is too hard.
You guys look like you got it. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't need me.
So think about that, because sometimes life is a battlefield. and if you stop swinging, if you stop making that effort, you're going down.
Yep. You know, so guys, full moon in Sagittarius, full super moon in Sagittarius. Get on the horse, see where it takes you. If you're faced with something that doesn't work, despair for, I mean, I think grief is okay.
Yeah.
And figure out your network. I mean, part of this healing journey, spirituality, is figuring out really what you need to grow. And if in the past you were okay doing it alone, maybe just try leaning on your new network of people. Don't go back to the old ones, and you might find something different. And if you find the same, you already know how to react, right? So this full moon is really giving us an opportunity to highlight a lot. Remember, full moons are not the time for intense action. Um, but whatever you find, learn more about yourself in the way of management, and then from there choose growth. Walk forward with fear, as Katrina said. And if bring your lessons to the next Thursday that we're on, which should be next week. And we'd love to hear from you. What did you go through on Tuesday that made a difference in your life, or what are you continuing to endure? Because if I'm right, Thursday, our next broadcast will be the last bit of energy of the full moon. So,
Well, and hold space for yourself. I'm not going to
yes.
tell you to meditate, because I know people run screaming into the woods with their little pinafores up over their heads if I
Ah, she
say
said the
that.
M word.
Oh, no. But just hold space for yourself. Be silent with yourself. Give me 15 minutes of you sitting and not planning and not making a list and not mowing your yard and not working on clients. Just sit and be still for 15 minutes, half an hour, and just really consider who you are, where you are. And if you cannot do that, please, please, bless your heart, get some friends that will call you on your bullshit and that will be frank with you, and that are enlightened enough to see your potential and what you could be doing and what you said you want to do, in whom you've confided your wishes, and spend time with them, and just say, hey, can we have a half an hour a week where we just have frank dialogue,
Hmm.
and then hold space for each other and say, well, it seems
Yes.
like you got in your way here, or I really feel like this is the relationship that's pulling you back. How can we resolve that? If you have to be a team player, find somebody you can trust to do that. It's not me. I got news for you. It's not me. But
There's people.
there's
Now,
other
Carissa.
people.
Carissa. First of all, I knew this was coming. I felt like there was going to be somebody who was like, oh, and I hold space for myself. I fall asleep, or I do this, or I do that. Listen, if you would fall asleep on a friend that needed you to hold space, which you're a Taurus, I know you wouldn't. You would be team friendship all the way, cheerleading, hooping and hollering and carrying on, and spurring that person to victory. So why don't you deserve that for yourself? Remember, like, if you are not accustomed to holding space for yourself, sit across from yourself like the best friend you've ever had. What would you do for them? Do you take them to Starbucks? Do you go out and see a movie just to decompress and then talk? What do you do for others, and how do you support yourself in that? And then, maybe take it into the bathtub. Would you get in the bathtub and hold space for your friend? Whatever it is,
Mhm.
treat yourself like somebody who means something to you. And sleep
Also,
is
if
not
you're
going to cut it
falling
unless you're a lucid dreamer.
If you're falling asleep when you're attempting to meditate or hold space for yourself, you're not getting enough sleep.
Ooh. Oh,
That's,
we caught you.
you
We
know, it's
caught
that
you.
you're not rested. And because meditation isn't a passive thing, it's an active thing, it's an engaged thing. And hopefully you would not fall asleep in the bathtub and drown.
Oh no.
So, be engaged with your time spent and make sure you're resting enough during your downtime that you're not that tired, or do it in the morning instead of at night. A lot of people will do it after they're exhausted after a long day.
So maybe, Carissa, falling asleep, your full moon in Sagittarius homework is to get more sleep.
If this
Don't
guy
fall
falls
asleep on the
asleep,
horse.
if he falls asleep, he's in trouble. Okay. If you fall asleep on the airport belt, you are in trouble.
But in all serious, we love you guys. Thank you so much for the engagement. It's been a wonderful conversation on both ends. I've seen a lot of you guys talking about how you needed this, and we needed you too, because you are what drives this show. Is you guys and our love for each other drives this show,
Yep.
but mostly you guys. So we'll see you back next Thursday. I'm pretty confident everybody here viewing us will survive Tuesday. And we look forward to hearing from you on Thursday. So, with that, catch us on the replay, like and subscribe, all that nonsense. But we look forward to talking to you next time on Crossroads of Cognizance. Everybody have a great night and goodbye.
Bye.